Hi, welcome. It's Prema Gurreri, and I am excited to be here with you again today and bring you the spotlight on another one of the Sacred Wealth Code archetypes. Yes, there's 23 archetypes, and the aspects of all of them are within you somewhere, whether they're directly part of your Sacred Wealth Code or not, and they will serve you well the more you get to know them. And the Sacred Wealth cards are such a fun and exciting way to, and a really easy way to connect in with them. Not only are they gorgeous, but just by tuning in, and sometimes that's looking at the picture and seeing something that inspires you. Sometimes that's reading the mantra, like the visionary we're highlighting today, which is the world is filled with possibilities. Like, what if you remembered a part of you as visionary, and that you knew in every moment that the world is filled with possibilities? What might open up for you? We're going to talk to someone near and dear to my heart, one of my clients, and an amazing artist, musician, accountant, operator and producer at his own studio called the Sound House in St. Louis. So this is Will Labonte. Come and talk to us, Will, and say hello.
Hello.
And tell us a little more about yourself, Will.
So my project right now is this. It's the Midtown Sound House because it's the Midtown area of St. Louis. I feel like it also makes you think of New York, so that's cool. I'm an accountant during the day. It's taken me a long time to embrace that and accept it as like a part of my life and something I'm doing, but I really appreciate it now and I see the role it plays in this life.
Fabulous. So let's just hop in here, and we're talking about the visionary today. And Will, you have a visionary in your Sacred Wealth Code. And even if you didn't, we could still talk about the visionary, but I wanted to talk to you about the visionary because the visionary is really near and dear to your heart, and you've gotten to know the visionary within you really well and are continuing to get to know the visionary. And so what I'd love for you to share with us is, like, when you first came to, actually, we're going to go way back. So when you first came to this work, you and I started working together a couple of years ago. And when you first came to this work, what was it that you were dealing with in your life, struggling with or challenged with, that even made you even want to reach out to find a new way?
I mean, overall, I just knew something was way off. I was like off my path or what. I just didn't feel good overall. I didn't know why. And ultimately, like in hindsight, I think it was like trusting that deep down intuition, the vision, so to speak, with that piece of the wealth code that we're talking about. So it's like self-trust.
Which is a big one. And it's a big one that I'm so passionate about working on with people, and I'm continuing to develop my own self-trust. And it's a muscle you have to exercise and strengthen so that you can use it when you really do, not when it's like easy to, but when it comes to, everyone has a vision too. And it's, even if you don't know what it is, and at the time you had those inklings of it, but you needed to know what the purpose was to things, and you needed to connect with your vision and actually commit to it and let it start to open up for you. So let's also talk about, with the visionary and a vision, okay, because we all have a visionary within us. I'd love for you to share with everyone how, when you start to interact with your vision, is when the path really opens up. Is that enough of a cue for you to talk about the visionary?
When you see like the clearing that you're going to start running down, is that kind of like a good metaphor?
Yeah. Because a lot of times we get stuck with, okay, well, I can't see it all yet, but you've got to interact with it. You have to like get on the path. You have to start like taking some steps, and then you can see what's coming next, and and how the pieces start to fit together. And so is getting on the path and actually starting to trust yourself and interact with it is a huge part of connecting with the visionary, and a huge part of the process.
Yeah. Okay. So finding the path is what I'm hearing. And I think that was like, yeah, when you're just doing lots of things day to day and none of it is touching the path, like you don't, for me, it's like noticing, oh, I feel good or alive is kind of how I was putting it, is like, oh, this makes me feel alive. Like happiness is, I feel like what this is, people are describing. And like when it, for me, it was, being more dedicated with my music and like committing time to that. And I'm like, just a release and feeling more open and like, it makes other things that would normally be annoying less annoying. Just, I don't know. But you want to,
Well, how did the visionary actually help you to, and that visionary part of yourself, and we will talk about the shadow, but not quite yet. How did the visionary actually help you to, look, you've put out an EP, you put out a music video, you've been online, you weren't doing any of that a couple of years ago, and
right.
you've really put yourself out there. You're writing music regularly. Now you've bought your partner's in, buying a sound studio. I mean, you're
Yeah.
really living into your, how has the visionary helped you to actually actualize your vision?
For me, it's like just an everyday thing. I don't have this big vision. I didn't imagine buying this thing down the street for me right now. But it's like the daily thing, trusting that like, oh, I have this little idea for this little video song goofy thing I want to do, and I just started doing it. And like that gave me juice every day. It wasn't food, but as I'm finding out, it's something I need. And I think that's the biggest thing, is like trusting, like no matter how weird or crazy it sounds on paper to society, I need this. It's like life or death, literally, for me, because I'm like, I don't want to live unless I'm following this and doing these things.
So, when you're hearing Will say, okay, this is life or death for me, I know exactly what he's talking about, because I can feel that way. And I've felt that way in the past. Like what's the point, unless I'm enlivened and I'm on my purposeful path. And that's not always a serious adventure. That's a lot of times it can be very light. It can be joyful. It can be, like Will said, it can be silly. But the fact is the visionary really works with you when you engage in the path to your vision. I think because of a lot of the cultural programming and stuff that we're all, susceptible to, when it comes to having a vision, a lot of times people are like, well, it does have to be this big grandiose thing, or I need to know exactly what it looks like. And I know vision boarding and all these things, that's useful, but not everybody's super visual on the inside. And yes, you can hold a vision of something, but you have to get into the feeling aspect. But living into it day to day is really what, and being able to listen to the nudges and follow your hunches and what's inspiring you and your intuition. And that's the path. You've got to, and truth, we're not here for the end vision most of the time. We're actually here for the journey. So being willing to be engaged on that path is a big deal. So flip over and talk about some of the shadow with the visionary, because on the shadow side of the visionary, we've got hubris and overexpansion and overly idyllic and lack of action and perfectionism. So where would you get caught in the shadow side of the visionary? And then we'll talk about how you got past that, but where would that hang you up so that you weren't on that path to your vision?
I think definitely like over idealistic and perfectionist. Just like before, when I was spending time on music before like I really started to figure things out. But it was like I was trying to do every single thing by myself. And I wasn't really sharing with anyone. So it's like this, I should be able to do everything and I'm going to make this happen. And then I'd be at home by myself, banging my head against the table and computer, trying to figure out how to make certain things sound the way I wanted to. And I just couldn't get there. and to connect it forward. Like eventually I figured out like, oh, you work with other people who know way more than you do about these other things. That it's kind of ridiculous to think that you can write the song, play the guitar, mix it, master it, do all those things. I mean, don't get me wrong, maybe there's some savant out there that does all that, but I'm not him. So like
Well, that's where your high value gifts come in, right? Like if we really all stay focused on our high value gifts, and those are the ones that are really valuable in the world,
mhm.
we also realize that we really all need to be collaborators at some level. So with that, uh, how have you embraced, what have you had to go through, and how, and also you can tell some story about how you are embracing not doing all these parts by yourself, being that perfectionist, um, and how you're working with others and others' high value gifts in order to bring, create.
Mhm. I think, well, one of the things was probably about money, honestly. Like on paper, it's like if you spend money on hobbies, like it, it just didn't make sense. I was an accountant. I was trained by society to think these things were important and whatever. And I was still like rubbing against that pretty hard. And thinking I thought I was like doing it, cheaply because I wasn't really paying anyone to help. Um, and just releasing that other people could be part of my creation too. And like, it's not like it's not mine anymore. Or
Do you know what the part that I want to say that, do you remember the beliefs you were working with around that, or the part that was, that shadow part coming in, or what you even had to do to overcome that so that you felt like, yeah, this is still mine, but I'm willing to collaborate here?
I think it's just like interconnectedness is like the biggest thing. And I'm 100% on that right now, belief. But just knowing that like everything is connected, and it doesn't, just because someone else has a great idea doesn't have to be a threat to anything or anybody, and it's going to help you, and it's like an additive. It's not, I don't know, I look back on it now and I see how silly it is. I think it, like, that's how I'm looking at it now anyway. um just to, I feel like an idea is idealized, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
And anymore, I'm like, an idea isn't anything if you don't do anything with it.
An idea will go find another home if you don't do anything with it.
Right.
They're not even all your ideas. They're floating around, and they want a home if they've been birthed. And if you don't open up to it, you've got that great idea and you see somebody else go do it. You're like, I had that idea. Well, that's why inspired action and seizing the moment is so important.
Well, yeah, like anymore, I'm just excited if I get to like touch the process somewhat and like have it, if you, and we've talked about this in various forms, I guess, of feeling like you have influence in something. And maybe that's really what like a good tribe, collaboration, work, family, that's like everybody wants to have that feeling of some level of influence in the result of what everyone's doing.
Yeah, and that there's a sense of belongingness that comes with that
Yeah.
too. Uh, as I always say, and it might sound cliche, but it's so very true. We were never meant to do it alone. We were,
Mm-hmm.
babies can't, human babies can't live without being touched. They have to be touched. We don't thrive without being touched, and we don't have all the gifts it takes to do everything for a reason, because then we wouldn't need each other. And we are interconnected. We are part of the one. I think it's the, and you and I could go off all day on this, but we won't. That, I believe that we all are an expression of, God, the divine consciousness, the universe, whatever you want to say.
Robots.
Thank you. a little more into organics than robots, but we are, we are all part of this one. So it only makes sense to me that the greater vision for us keeps us interconnected, and that's where we thrive and where we survive. And in fact, feminine leadership is on the rise, and the Dalai Lama said, the Western woman will save the world, only because the feminine in all of us, not just women, is about community, is about connectedness, is about a we instead of an I. And there are places for I, but is for a we. And we need that to survive and to thrive. Absolutely.
I had a thought today around this that's like, the reason people in general hate doing certain things is to allow other people to do those things.
There you go. There you go. I think that, well, and that goes right along with my theory of that. What if we all really focused on our gifts? Then we would be loving what we do, and then there'd be space for other people to be gifting. Like even in my household, like I like clean. Okay. So I don't have big resistance around cleaning. I only have so much time though. And there's things that are very easy for me to do. Like I'll bust through in a couple of minutes that maybe Michael really doesn't ever, it's like a resistance thing. Like, what's the point? Why do we have to have more resistance? There's things that, he's willing to do that I really have no interest in doing. And you can fill in the gaps with paying people who, and let them use their gifts too. Or our kids come and they are good at some things, especially when those living and work environments. That's why I have a team in my company. I don't want to I can't do all this alone. It's not mine to do.
Yeah.
So it's super, super important to remember that it's a we thing. So let's come back to the visionary and also talk about, so you had to work past the idealism and the perfectionist. And I think you've kind of said it here, but I think I want to ask you more succinctly here. What worked out of the work we did together? What worked to really bust you through that?
I think it was just like daily, just being consistent and doing it often. You care less about like the little specifics that won't really change much of anything.
That's
so like when you're consistently doing it, you're not, I don't know, you're just worried about it less.
That's so true, Will. I mean, look, okay, so I'm going to be super transparent here, guys. So I do have a room in my house to do videos, and it's set up so I can just plop my laptop in and plug in my mic and turn on the lights and away we go. And I have a very busy life. Now, there was a time when I first started being on camera where and I had it all written out and I had to have it all just right. But like, I'm lucky to get my butt in the chair and get it on in time. And I'm like, here we go. It's just become a part of, I don't have time to fuss over those details. And if there's something that really flops, we can either redo it or somebody can go and clean it up later. But and I remember when I first started teaching yoga, I would fuss over a workshop and spend all this time. And then and then I would go to teach the workshop, specifically workshops. And I realized I almost never taught what I even planned because I had to get in the room and I had to tune into I had to interact with everybody. And so, and that's the same pretty much with all I do. If we stay in our brilliance and keep growing our brilliance, we get more comfortable, but you do have to, using it makes you have more comfortability in it. So let's circle back around the visionary too. So the visionary has all these sacred archetypes have their qualities. So the visionary is inventive, expansive, wise, insightful, enthusiastic, curious, courageous, philanthropic, imaginative, wealthy, knowledgeable, conceptual, inspired, idealistic, benevolent, and humble. And that's because the visionary is ruled by Jupiter. And what Jupiter wants for itself, Jupiter wants for everyone. It's very, very gracious in that way. We already talked about the mantra, the the world is filled with possibilities, and the soul desire is to manifest future possibilities in the present to uplift the world. And the purpose is to illuminate possibilities and create a vision for greater good. And I think you've really stepped into both the purpose and the soul desire of the visionary, very much so, to manifest future possibilities in the present to uplift the world. I think that all your music is about that, and your silliness and your creativeness and your work behind the scenes and helping other people get their work out there. I just want to invite you to share whatever you want to share about that.
Yeah, I think along with the over idealistic piece, it's like those were the things that would kind of drive me crazy. Like, this can be way better. Like, just I don't even want to get in the political side of things, but just at work or with the music, and if I'm just sitting across from one person and be like, what do you need? I will help you. And like, I don't, and it's just, but that sort of stuff feeds me too. And maybe that's why, like, it's part of my wealth code, or just, it's in my bones, because it's something that feeds me, is like creating and then like helping other people create and seeing them come to life and bring their things alive.
And that uplifts the world. I mean, that's upliftment. And I think one of your, you have all the gifts that you have as a visionary, but I would say that you're a really great innovator.
Do you have something in specific in mind, or are you just like, I have always thought, like, and this has maybe been a hurdle as well, as like too many options of like, well, we could do it this way, could do that, this. It's like, I feel like I always see a path on how to do something, but it's whether like the motivation's there, or it's kind of get caught in this decision overload comes to mind, but that doesn't feel like quite the right word, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. You have, well, speaking of Will's actual sacred wealth code, he's got also a really strong administrator, which is really a very kind of opposite energy as the visionary. So the visionary's got this ability to like innovate and improv and this real brilliance around vision, and can see like greater possibilities. And the administrator is like very how to, as a leader that can really see what needs to happen in order to create the vision. Sometimes like people who have a really strong visionary don't always have a really strong administrator. And they may need to have a team who then can put the infrastructure together, because they're on to the next vision already, which is totally fine. Everybody's wired up differently. Even if a visionary isn't part of your wealth code, I guarantee you vision in your life. And when you pull this card, or you ask for, hey, what kind of help and guidance do I need today? Because there's lots of different ways to use the card. Well, maybe you need to expand your vision, because maybe you're looking too narrow. But you happen to have that other end of the spectrum where you can actually see how it's going to get done, and you actually have the systematic approach to things where you can actually A, B, C, D. I mean, you actually know, you can see the pathway, and whether you're going to execute it, you can see who needs to do what in order to actually get to not just where someone maybe want to go, but to the greater vision that's possible. And I think that's also one of the things that's kind of hard for you too, because you do tend to see over people's heads, like at your accounting job. Isn't that true?
I mean, it feels a little weird to say that, but yeah, like, I'm like, isn't this obvious to everyone in the room?
See, I'm always telling him, it's not obvious to everyone, Will. You kind of have to spell it out.
Yeah, well, okay, that's been, I don't know what part of the shadow that is, like, having to explain shit to people.
It's kind of that's kind of that idealistic and sometimes hubris part of things. Like, isn't this obvious? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I used to think that just because I taught something one time that everyone should just have it. not that they should, but I just thought they did. And I was just supposed to move on until I realized, oh, it's like my yoga practice. We're going to do the same thing over and over again, the same poses. I remember calling up my friend Shireen. All right, so we do the same poses and we teach them every different way we can over and over and over again. And that's what we do. Yep, that's what we do. And then we stand on our heads. Yep, that's what we do. Okay, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So,
hey, Matt, I'm on the phone. Sorry.
No worries. This is real life, live and in color. All right. So we're gonna wrap it up here, and I'd love for you to share one of your success stories from using your visionary, using any of your archetypes.
What's coming to mind is the first music video. So I grew out my beard over a 6-month period. So however long it got pretty big and crazy. And the idea was, the song's called Wild Anymore. But anyway, I was supposed to be a wild looking person, animal. And leading up to this, did the storyboards and wrote out all these things. And I have amazing people I work with. A couple of them helped me out on this. And I mean, it was like a favor, and it felt like a grind for a while. But just doing all the steps and then finally getting to the day where we shot it, and we were here for 12 hours maybe, but like I woke up early, I had to get all the stuff, but I was like so motivated to do all the things. And then once we were done shooting it, it was like, that's the fun part. And then the post process, I was working with my friend, and that's not a thing he does as often. So it started to get not fun, but like just like the piece of knowing it's not all gumdrops and rainbows or whatever you want to say. And once we got there and we find we were kind of noodling it to death at a certain point, but I think a couple of things were definitely worth it. And just playing that line of perfectionist / artist to get the thing you really want to see. And that helped teach me a lot on like what that line is. And then also that sometimes it does feel like hard work. And then we were able to release it, and it felt like a release. And I go back and look at it, and I'm like, still think it's awesome. And like,
which it is.
How worth it is, because I'm like, I now have this forever. So I don't know, it's just a very fulfilling thing with like shit in between, and
bringing a vision to life.
Yeah.
And we'll tell everybody where they can catch your video and catch your music.
But those are on my Facebook page, is William Labonte Music on Facebook. And then
we'll put that in the link too. The link that should be in the link with this video, by the way. You should check out the page here. It's there.
Yeah. So that's kind of the central source right now. So I guess Facebook is making it harder for everyone. So maybe somewhere else eventually.
Okay. But you're also on Spotify?
Yes. So there's 3 songs on Spotify. There's some stuff I do a lot of stuff on Instagram where just the 1-minute variations of things. But most of my time right now is doing manual labor. So,
but that's for another vision, right? That's for the
yeah. So this is like the hard part of the big cool thing.
There's always the hard work behind the amazing vision. You know, when you're building a home and it has that really strong foundation, people don't come by and look at it when you got the foundation and go, oh, great foundation. Yeah, you're down in the
Yeah.
mud, you know. They
Unless
come
you're
by
an
when
engineer, I guess.
you, right. They come by when you're doing the trim and putting the doors on, you know. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. So thank you so much for being here today. Those of you who are identifying with the visionary, check out the visionary. And we all have a visionary in us. But I always, you know, like I know that even if I'm not looking at your soul blueprint, you're feeling it. And that's one of the big reasons I do the work that I do, to help you be more aware of how am I wired up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so the visionary is really speaking to you. Get the visionary out, you know, grab the Sacred Wealth Code Archetype deck, grab the book. If you feel moved to come in and do some deeper work, we've got great programs to do that, the Sacred Wealth Circle, the Business Academy. So I want to thank Will for being here with us today. And Will, do you have anything you want to leave everybody with?
Just follow those things that are tugging at you. Just the little curiosities. This studio thing that came together for me it happened because I was like, oh, what about this? And I just sent a friend of mine a note, and like it was just a very subtle things that stacked on top of each other led to me buying a building and partnering with a guy that we're now gonna have like a pretty awesome recording studio. And I would have never guessed it would have come this way. And this is what I've been so much on lately, is like being aware of what is society's thoughts going through my brain right now, and to like set them aside and be like, what is filling me up? And like your vision might have nothing to do with what you've been taught up until now.
I love that. So let's leave that as our ending quote for the day. And I want you to live with this, everyone. So what is filling you up? What's filling you up? And if you say nothing's filling you up, then it's time to dig deeper. Let's get into your gifts, and you want to be filling yourself up every day. And I guarantee you, if you put your time and attention and your energy on what fills you up first, you have not only have so much more to give, but in filling yourself up, that's where the vision starts to unfold. You have to interact with it. You can't just think about it and have it happen. You've got to interact with it and then follow those nudges. So thank you, Will. Thanks for being here with us today. Thanks for inspiring everybody with you and your visionary.
Thank you, Prema.
Totally a pleasure. All right, everybody. We'll see you soon.